Welcome to Lynn Cullen Live. Talk radio without the static. Email your questions and comments to lynncullenshow@gmail.com. And now your host, Lynn Cullen.
Hey there, and welcome to you. November 10, another beautiful day. Apparently the last one for a while. Enjoy it. Wow. Well, I've immersed myself in lots of articles and things about numbers and stuff. And here's one thing. I mean, there's so much to talk about. Here's one thing that I want to say, and it has to do with the way American journalism increasingly works. And it's something unfortunate that's happened. And it's what I saw a term for it for the first time. And it's called prediction journalism. And it is prediction journalism that, frankly, is not journalism at all. Journalism is about things that have happened or are happening. Journalism is not soothsaying. It's not entrail reading. And too often, what our media seem to spend so much time on is this so-called prediction journalism. And they're often wrong. And they muddy the waters, not what journalism is supposed to do, and they mislead because they are not soothsayers. And it is, I think I would say, the major reason I have been so put off by especially cable news, CNN, MSNBC, is because they traffic in this kind of so-called journalism constantly. And it's great for, attracting an audience, creating a narrative, creating anxieties, but it is not what a journalist is supposed to spend most of her time doing. I mean, obviously, sometimes one can look at what's happened in the past, what's happening now, and suggest that doesn't bode well for the future. But this constant prediction, which is wrong, red waves, wrong. And you would think that after being wrong so much, they would be, here's my word, humbled. Truly humbled. And maybe engage in some how silly of me, I won't even finish the sentence. Because these are corporatized models now. They're about making money. They're not about information. They're about entertainment. And let's just cut to the chase. When you live in this, overly capitalized system of ours, it's just everything is about making a buck. And if everything's about making a buck, then it's very hard to hold on to amorphous things like principle and ethics. You go with what works. So anyway, prediction journalism, that's my bugaboo. Okay, a few things I'm thinking. And I think this will be all over the board. So hold on to your seat. This is not going to be necessarily coherent. I'm sorry, I just got a text, personal thing. Excuse me. God dang. We're all just sitting ducks all the time. I think the most incredible thing that may have happened in Tuesday's election is, hey, by the way, did you notice I said Tuesday, like a T-Y-U? You know, where I learned that pronunciation as opposed to pronunciation, where I learned how to say pronunciation and Tuesday. It was way, way back in the like 1970. And I had gone to New York to study theater or acting at the neighborhood playhouse with the esteemed Sanford Meisner. And one of the classes was a voice class. And boy, man, I got disabused of so many things of the way I thought things were to be pronounced. And some held. I mean, it never got, I refused to give up my accent, but I did give up certain words that clearly I was mispronouncing. And the correct pronunciation of Tuesday, if you say Tuesday, T-O-O-S, it's incorrect. I'm just telling you. Who decided it's incorrect? I'm not sure. The speech teacher at the neighborhood playhouse. It's Tuesday. I'm sorry, that was a total digression. I just heard myself say it and thought of, wow, how some teachers really, really have an impact, even if it's that small. I can't even remember her name. She was like a little frightening Miss Grundy woman. Scary. Scared the hell out of me. She was like 5 feet tall, and she was always poking me in the stomach. From your diaphragm! Okay, I'm sorry. What the hell was I talking about? Oh, so one of the surprisingest things on Tuesday was it looks increasingly like, yeah, it happened. The Democrats took the state house in Pennsylvania. The Democrats are going to have more power at the legislative level here in Pennsylvania, and the Republicans have lost power. I'm just thrilled by it. Now, it's tight as holy hell, and I think it's not totally a done deal yet. And it has to do with the fact that Summer Lee and our new Lieutenant Governor, Austin Davis, still have seats. Why are you able to do that? You run for two things at the same time? Or you can, I don't agree with that. I think that's nuts. I don't know. What do I know? I haven't thought it out enough. But anyway, so Summer Lee apparently was running in both for both races, and a dead guy won too, DeLuca. So we got two Democrats and a dead guy. Democrat, I think, and those have to be three special elections, but those are Democratic. Anyway, up until then, these three still retain those positions. Well, the dead guy, but retain those positions. So those are Democratic votes. Anyway, I don't know what I'm saying, but it appears, yeah, that the Pennsylvania State House, which had been, listen to the breakdown that it was on Tuesday when we went to vote, 113 Republicans in that chamber and 90 Democrats. Whoa. That's 23 more Republicans than Democrats. And when the dust settles, it appears that the Democrats will have, what, one more than the Republicans. So it's just huge. It will also result in a black woman taking over as the majority leader of the state house. Oh, God, I cannot tell you how much joy that gives me. Also, the fact that we don't know who controls the Congress of the United States. And I am, if there's one thing that I'm just sick about, it's that Democrats could lose control of both chambers. Right? Because we don't have control of, it appears we're not going to hold the House. The good news, of course, being that the House will, even if it has a Republican majority, will have a razor-thin Republican majority, which weakens them considerably. But I really had thought we'd hold the Senate more readily. And I guess my home state of Wisconsin returning that loathsome, lying piece of crap, Ron Johnson, instead of this wonderful, Mandela Barnes is a wonderful man. You just wonder. You wonder how. You mean control of the Senate of the United States could come down to a runoff election next month, pitting a fine, honorable, thoughtful human being, Trevor Warnock, against a... Yeah, I'll eschew all the negative adjectives I can now begin to spew before Herschel Walker's name. But that it would come down to a runoff because the voters of Georgia just can't decide which man is more worthy of holding a seat in the United States Senate. Of course, that's not what they're considering. They're just looking at those consonants next to their names, D and R. So, I'm worried Mark Kelly's lead in Arizona is narrowing. Harry Lake is looking a possible winner. The Arizona, what the F? They got apparently some 600,000 votes that they haven't gotten around to counting. What are they doing that no other state is doing? Or what aren't they doing that all other states are doing? How is it that in Arizona, something that is done in 49 other states cannot be done there? Well, it shouldn't surprise you that Arizona is the state, the hotbed of all the lies about our elections not being secure. Oh my God. And something else, I mean, I'm just blown away by these Democratic seats that were lost in the U.S. Congress. Told you I'm jumping around. In New York State. Long Island, for God's sake. Those are Democratic areas. There's no way we should have lost those seats. No way. So here's the only good thing I can figure from that, and it's likely, very likely, that the Republicans end up taking control of the House. And they do it because of these flipped seats in New York State. Here's my fervent hope and actually belief. I'm about to engage in predictive journalism. They won't hold those seats so that we can remedy that in 2 years. There's no way, if we don't work at it, that we reclaim most, if not all, those seats. That's somebody falling down on their, I can't even imagine. So, and these seats that are still up in the air out in California and Oregon and Washington State, So I find myself, relieved and reassured in many ways after this election, even though we don't know the total end. But I'm still very anxious about holding on to this and improving upon it. People who say, our democracy held again, the people spoke, this, it's still, we are pretty much a 50-50 enterprise here. And it could be that the only reason things held is the Republicans have gone so batshit crazy, and that some of their candidates and some of their efforts to undermine the system and institutions have really turned off people who otherwise would vote for Republicans. And that's where our great white hope might be Donald Trump. Let's make sure he stays in the game. Let's make sure Donald doesn't go quietly. Because at this point, this is what happens. The Republicans did not have the spine or the honor to keep Donald Trump from taking over their party. And they're reaping the rewards. It looked good there for a while. But ultimately, he doesn't give a damn about them. Are they just realizing that now? He'll take the whole party down. And as I said, he might be the Democrats' greatest asset, Donald Trump. I'll raise a glass to him. Republicans are so desperate to get rid of him, but they don't know how. You got, apparently, Fox News rarely even mentioning his name. You have the New York Post, Rupert Murdoch's New York City rag, having Trump on its cover today as Humpty Dumpty, or as he's called on the front page of the New York Post today, Trumpty Dumpty. And, it's not hard to make him into Humpty Dumpty, as you could imagine. He's just built for it. And the New York Post says this next to Trumpty Dumpty. Don, who couldn't build a wall, had a great fall. Can all the GOP's men put the party back together again? Donald Trump's got to be just beside himself with rage. And his need for vengeance and payback is boundless. So, inasmuch as the Republican media establishment and the Republican Party attempt to shed him, turn from him, he's going to want revenge. And to my mind, revenge will come from him hurting them as much as possible. So they're so desperate to keep him out of Georgia now, because they figure if he goes in, he'll only help Warnock, not Walker. The Secretary of State, I guess, there, or somebody, I think Governor Kemp, is begging him to stay out. Well, you can't, fine. You lie down with dogs, you get fleas. I'm really sorry. And another good thing that happened, a lot of the Trumpist candidates who were running for governor or lieutenant governor, people who would oversee the 2024 elections in their states, most of them didn't win. Vast majority of them didn't win. I think one won in Indiana. Didn't win here, Pennsylvania. So these are all like really important swing states. Michigan didn't win. Even Wisconsin, with Evers holding on in Wisconsin, and in fact that veto-proof majority not happening for the Republicans. They just couldn't get that marvelous black man over the finish line. Because, he had a big problem. He was black. I love the metaphor. I don't know if it was intended as metaphor because it is fact. But there was a story, I think it was in the Washington Post, about on election night Trump having a party. He threw a party because he assumed he was going to be, the king. Well, his candidates were going to win, and then he was maybe even going to announce and blah, 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 blah. Well, that party didn't go so well. I was at Mar-a-Lago. And the sentence I read that made me chuckle is that it said this: he gave only brief, subdued remarks Tuesday night from a watch party at Mar-a-Lago in the path of a hurricane and subject to an evacuation order. I love it. There is metaphor, reality. So, and the only other Trumpian thing I suspect I'm going to say is I assume, have seen that unbelievable quote he made prior to the election. It's a classic Trumpian quote. It shows his, I don't know. I mean, it shows how absolutely shameless he is, and how that's been the brand, and that's been what the base has loved about him. His sticking his finger in the eye of every civic norm. And it worked for a while. So he, in I think response to a question, apparently said about the chances for Republicans and his anointed candidates on Tuesday night. He said, I think if they win, I should get all the credit. And if they lose, I shouldn't be blamed at all. Is that not Whoa. Whoa. Now, I had a friend arguing the other night that Trump is funny, she said, trying to explain why people like him. That he has charisma, that he's funny. And I mean, it's just so lost on me. I can't see it at all. Now, is that what's meant to be funny? Is that a funny thing he's saying? I guess it is. His base would laugh at that, knowing he absolutely means it. And they love the sheer gall he exhibits, the shamelessness. My God. Okay. Here's my favorite story of the day. It has to do with Kentucky Fried Chicken. Yep. You see this? Kentucky Fried Chicken, I mean, that chicken's all over the world. You can be traveling in Asia, and man, you'll see the Colonel. Like you see the Golden Arches. It's America's exports to the world. Heart attacks. And KFC is in Germany as well. And KFC has had to issue an apology, an abject apology to the German people, because it sent out an announcement yesterday that said this. This was a advertising, a marketing thing to show how with it this American-based corporation was with things that are important to their German customers. So here's what German customers maybe got on their Twitter feed or whatever from KFC. It's Memorial Day for Kristallnacht. Treat yourself with more tender cheese on your crispy chicken. Now at KFC Cheese. So how does KFC, what idiot is that? Kristallnacht. When God knows untold numbers of Jews were slaughtered in their businesses vandalized, their homes shut down. This was 1938. This was in case Jews hadn't gotten the message yet that they weren't welcome anymore. Kristallnacht, the night of breaking glass. And KFC thinks it's it's Kristallnacht. What did they think? Somebody must have thought crystal. It's like Christmas or something, right? Must be something they celebrate. It's the anniversary of Kristallnacht. Come and get an extra cheesy chicken. Now what happens is, Kristallnacht is memorialized in Germany in an effort to teach the German newer generations about the horror that happened. And so it's used as an effort to teach about the Holocaust and about what Nazi rule brought to Germany. It's not a happy holiday. And KFC said, it was a glitch in our, apparently, we have an algorithm that, sees a holiday in a nation where we are, and it's marked as a holiday, and, we just, it's an automatic kind of push notification. Happy Kristallnacht. Have some KFC. God almighty. Can't make it up. I also want to point out in terms of, I saw quit unexpectedly. I know I lost my, fuck you. I also want to point out that in terms of the prediction journalism stuff, how we were told, don't expect to know the results Tuesday night. I mean, we were even told that about Pennsylvania, right? Well, that it really didn't happen. I mean, the vote count was seamless and quick. And it wasn't just us. It was, well, it sure as hell wasn't Arizona and some of those other Western states that are, I don't know what the hell they're doing. But everybody else seemed to get it right. And all of those scary poll watchers carrying guns that Steve Bannon promised was going to be out there, none of that material. Oh, there was a little thing here and there. Some guy in Wisconsin showed up with a gun somewhere right outside of Milwaukee, but he was quickly taken care of. But yeah, I mean, I, again, believed that we were going to see, potential horror on election night because of the way these Republicans have been promising and acting. And it shows how much, and the media, again, amplifies that threat. And the threat turned out to be pretty much a paper tiger. But it is for the media to know that it's just a bunch of crap being spewed in an effort to intimidate, to make them seem larger than they are. And so our media is always doing this heavy lifting for MAGA and for the Republicans. Whenever they start this bombastic, threatening stuff, it is amplified. It didn't happen. Now, given the closeness of this race in Arizona, we'll, I'm sure, begin to see a lot of election denial stuff going on there because, well, that's the birthplace and that's, practically a religion to some of the folks out there. Arizona, where they can't count, apparently. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 is way too fast for the folks in Arizona. They count like 1, 2, 3. I mean, just go. Let's hear it for Maricopa County. Woo! Doing yourselves proud again. So, I happened upon a letter written a long time ago. What do you mean something went wrong? Tell me something went wrong. This was written, I think, in the 70s, early 70s. I cannot believe it's not coming up. It's a letter that Charles Schultz wrote to a 10-year-old boy who had asked him what makes a good citizen. I'm going to try to find it in another form. It pisses me off. And Schultz had the most wonderful reply. And it is so, it could have been written, right now, given what's going on in our country, about what a true citizen is. And of course, I can't friggin' find it. If anyone wants to find the Charles Schultz 1970 letter to a 10-year-old boy about good citizenship and send it, that'd be good. Because it's toast. I so fucking hate this. Okay, so he essentially, though, said to the kid that it's hard to define. It's not an easy thing, but he ended up by saying, it was like he was working it out as he was writing the response to the child. And then he ended up saying something to the effect of, it's the people who talk the most about somehow that's, I'm not going to try. I'm not going to try to paraphrase it. I am so sorry. God damn it. God damn it. Okay. Let down by technology yet again. I think it's maybe that I don't pay the money, I guess, where this originally came from. Maybe that's it. Anyway, sorry. Damn it. Ooh, Ruth, did you find it? Oh, God. Oh, thank you. Thank you. That's it. Okay. Bless you. Thank you. It says here in 1970, students in a fifth grade class in Beverly Hills were assigned to write a letter to someone they admired, asking them what makes a good citizen. A kid named Joel Lipton. I'm looking at a picture of him now. He's old. Well, he's younger than me. Heck, if he was 10 and 70. Anyway, this guy was and his wife were cleaning out a closet, and they came upon the letter that Charles Schultz had sent him on November 9th, 1970. And here it is. Dear Joel, I think it is more difficult these days to define what makes a good citizen than it has ever been before. Certainly, all any of us can do is follow our own conscience and retain faith in our democracy. Sometimes it is the very people who cry out the loudest in favor of getting back to what they call American virtues, and he has that in quotes, who lack this faith in our country. That was the line I was saying. Sometimes it is the very people who cry out the loudest in favor of getting back to what they call American virtue who lack this faith in our country. I believe that our greatest strength lies always in the protection of our smallest minorities. Sincerely yours, Charles Schultz. God bless him. So it has ever been thus. So he's saying the people who always want to make America great again, get back to what was, that those are the people who don't have a clue what America really means and stands for and attempts to be. I believe that our greatest strength lies always in the protection of our smallest minorities. Yeah. As opposed to like, this is a white nationalist Christian nation. And people who aren't those things, or these homosexuals and Muslims and brown people coming across our borders, and these always troublesome Jews are not part of it. Wow. And the kid who got the letter, now the man who says this, I'm sure, his response went way over my head as a kid, what he said in the letter. But I think now, in the time we're living in politically, what he said about the people who hide behind American virtue and about protecting our smallest minorities, I knew that could speak to a lot of people. To see that this came from this man 50 years ago and how important these words are today. And so he posted it on Facebook. And wow, it just went, that's must be how it ended up in my purview too. And one of the people saw it was his widow, Jean Schultz. And she said, I continually find comic strips that could have been written for today's audience. Well, right, because what her husband was doing was dealing in truth. I mean, truth mostly about human nature. So he was a incredibly wise observer of humanity. And it's what his wonderful comics were based on. So about the imperfections of human nature. Yeah. And she also says that it was a little unusual for him to respond so, generously because he was inundated. He couldn't sit there and answer. So something about that resonated with him. And she also says, this says what needs to be said now. And so thank you, Ruth. Thank you. I did want to share it for those who hadn't seen it. I appreciate that. I saw that the Post-Gazette has pulled healthcare coverage from its striking workers. So, and as it turns out, healthcare, that the majority of them, of the strikers, don't have another fallback plan. In other words, they're now without healthcare coverage. Now, the union that they belong to says they will step in. But, this could be exhibit, who knows what, 700,000. For why tying somebody's access to health care to their employer is insane. I don't think there's another country on this earth that does it. If there is, let me know. I think it's a particularly American invention to keep away from what every other country knows works, which is nationalized health insurance, a basic human right that is obviously should be the purview of a government, not a private employer. So if you lose your job, you lose your health care. And we come up with fixes. Well, no, we got Cobra. Oh, God. Ask anyone who's ever thought when they lost their job, because I'm one of them. Oh, but there's Cobra. And then you look into Cobra and you say, what? It's expensive as hell. And you're unemployed. Can't afford it. It's bull. Cobra is bull. But there is no way that this should be allowed. And it's hardly me saying it. In fact, Senator Casey is enraged about this. It's something he's been unhappy with for a long time because this happens a lot. And he, along with Sherrod Brown, next door, that amazing liberal Democrat in Ohio, he and Bob Casey introduced a bill last year to protect exactly workers like the Post-Gazette reporters and editors and others who are now who've lost their health insurance, just lost it. And Senator Casey says this, that we got to pass this bill so health care can no longer be used as a weapon. Only in America. A weapon to silence workers exercising their fundamental rights to organize. Actually, Casey didn't say weapon, he said tool. But he meant a weapon. He's always very understated. You know my favorite story about him. He was in the studio with me and when I was at WPTT, and I was doing an interview with him, and he was boring the hell out of me, and so soft-spoken. You know, I could barely hear him, and I was sitting a foot away from him. And then, well, this is how he talks. That's how he talks. It's that soft. And even when he's talking about something like this, he would say, this is how he would say it. I'm going to keep working to pass this bill so healthcare can no longer be used as a tool to silence workers exercising their rights. And he was talking like that, and I was starting to get so annoyed. And I banged my fists on the table, which I think got his attention. And I said, my God, can't you show some passion? And he said, that's what my wife says. Which I loved. It was cute. Just saying. By the way, for those of you who do subscribe to the PG, or for those who stop subscribing to the PG because of their editorial content, their firing of Rob Rogers, their strike breaking, whatever. The strikers are asking that you pledge, and I don't know how you do that except, in your own heart, that if the PG continues to not bargain in good faith with them, they haven't had a contract in I don't know. I mean, their kids have grown and gone off to college. That if the PG continues to not bargain in good faith, that you cancel. You let them know. You let the management know. You keep this up, you're going to have one less subscriber in me. I'm canceling. And they also want people like me who have canceled in the past to let them know, hey, I got news for you. You want me back? Then let's hammer out a fair contract. So that is why, just spreading the word that that's what the strikers are hoping that we will do. Okay? CG writes, with respect to Arizona, they had something like 8 ballot propositions, which is given as a reason for slow tabulation of votes. Well, why is that? I mean, even if the resolution, that would slow down the voting, right? It would make a ballot really long. But once you get the ballot, it's either a filled in circle here or a filled in circle there, and you would count it out. You don't have to read the damn resolution when you're counting it. I can see where that would slow down the filling out of a ballot, but not the counting of a ballot. Also, says Gigi, counties there decided to hand count certain races as a way of staving off all of that voter fraud. You know what? A hand count could well result in more errors, human error, than a mechanical tabulation would. This is all just Republican crapola. Again, fantasy. One county attempted to hand count all the races and finally backed down when they were threatened with legal action because the law places a limit on what proportion can be hand counted. Oh, God. This is when Republicans take over governance. It runs amok. Thank you, by the way, all of you who sent the letter, as many of you did. Bert, Milt, thank you. Ruth got in for you. Barbara writes, why did health insurance become employer-based? Well, I don't know where you got this from, Barbara, but it says here, to combat inflation, the 1942 Stabilization Act was passed, designed to limit employers' freedom to raise wages and thus to compete on the basis of pay for scarce workers. The actual result of the act was that employers began to offer health benefits as incentives instead. I don't know where that came from. Is that certainly it sounds like a possibility. But the real reason would have to have something to do with America's fear of socialism. That universal health care is socialistic. But I can see, because there was no universal health care, if an employer was told by the government, hey, you have to be careful what you're doing here with wages. We're trying to combat inflation. I don't understand. But yeah, I can see where they would say, well, how about as a perk, we give them health care? But the thing is, most employers would not have wanted to deal with their employees' health care. It's insane. We might as well have, instead of employees, you could say, let's see, what else could it be? A place that you're, show up. The churches should be the place where people get their help. It makes absolutely no sense. Can I just say something that I've been wanting to say, and it's just mean and has nothing to do with anything, but it's something that's bothering me because I think he's, of all the, I appreciate his, generally the job he's done. When I do watch, I haven't, because I did, obviously, on the election stuff, dip back into CNN and MSNBC. I just want to say there's too much laughing on MSNBC. I want to say that right now. They're just a little too insular for me, and they just laugh at each other's jokes. And at one point, it was just like a giggle-a-thon the other day. I thought, shut up. I don't know. I'm sorry. I'm a hard, tough, obnoxious, unforgiving audience. But, and this is what, and when having been in television myself and possessing an unusual voice, which some people, I'm sure, find off-putting. I'm sure of that. As I've said, when I listen to it, I find it off-putting. It's very hard for me to hear myself. But I find some male voices just grate on me. I cannot stand them. And so even if the person is, somebody you might want to listen to, I just it's like, that's what happens. It's also subjective. So the voice is just making me nuts, and it's getting worse. It's not getting better, is Jake Tapper. I can't even explain exactly what it is. I cannot stand his voice. So I just needed to share that. I don't know why. Because it says nothing about anything. But I am often stunned at people who end up, and I suppose people are, again, by me as well, who end up in a job. I remember when they asked me first to go on the radio, I said, radio? I don't have a radio voice. A radio voice was, well, what you hear on NPR for women. It's Carrie Lake. She has a great voice. So I don't know. I feel bad about it. But he went to the same Jewish private high school. This is, Mastriano went after Shapiro for sending his kids to a private Jewish school. But apparently he had gone to it himself. And it turns out so did Jake Tapper. That he and Shapiro were, I don't know if they were in the same class. Would they have been? My guess is Tapper's a little old. I don't know. Oh, and there's another thing that I want to point out that came across my purview, because I only got a minute left here. I saw, the Kennywood shooting. 3 people got shot at Kennywood, and oh my God, the local uproar and this and that, of course. And then the police announced they had caught somebody, and it was a 15-year-old black boy whose face was plastered all over, and a judge threw out all the charges yesterday. I just want to say, this is one of those cases where we got to find somebody. Everybody's up in an uproar. So, and it turns out that none of what the cops and the DA, the prosecutors, had on this guy was nothing. In fact, it turns out he was shot. He was a victim. And now he's been victimized again. And I just want to say, good God, this is what you, with a public demand, speedy justice. And okay, round up a black kid. Now, if the perp turns out to be a black kid, fine. This black kid was not a perp. He got shot. All right, I'm done. I'm going out and enjoy this last day because tomorrow it's going to rain like hell apparently, and then it's going to be winter. So I'm out. That sky's blue, and I'm out. Thank you all for listening to me, if in fact you have, and I'll be back on Monday, and I'll quote Doug Hurst here: "The good Lord willin', and the creeks don't rise."
Lynn Cullen Live, Monday through Thursday from 10 a.m. to 11 a.m. and archived at pghcitypaper.com. The opinions expressed on Lynn Cullen Live are those of the host and do not necessarily reflect the viewpoints of Pittsburgh City Paper or its advertisers.